On the alien planet Zithra, the sky shimmered with twin suns, casting a golden glow over the towering spires of the royal palace. The palace was alive with activity. Servants moved quickly along polished corridors. Guards in gleaming armor stood at every doorway. And high above, in the throne room, the alien queen, Queen Valera, sat with a stern expression. Her many eyes scanning the court below. Her daughter, Princess Leora, stood beside her, quiet and tense. The princess was known throughout Zithra not for her skill or intelligence, but for what the court called her uselessness. She could not fight. She could not cast energy shields, and she often struggled with even the simplest alien etiquette. The nobles whispered behind her back, calling her weak and unfit to rule. Queen Valera had always been proud, sharp, and commanding, but today she felt a rare uncertainty. It was time for her daughter to marry. Not just any marriage, but one that could secure alliances and ensure peace. Yet no suitable Zithran noble was willing to marry Leora. They saw her as a burden, a princess who would bring no honor to their house. This court grows quiet when I speak of my daughter's marriage, Queen Valera said, her voice echoing in the throne room. Perhaps it is time to think beyond our race. Whispers filled the room. Many nobles were shocked. Marrying a human? The thought seemed ridiculous. Humans were primitive creatures from the distant planet Earth. They were small, weak, and fragile. Yet, they had survived countless dangers and, somehow, had reached the stars. The queen's advisors frowned but said nothing. Outside the palace gates, a human shuttle descended, its engines humming softly. Captain Ethan Ward, the human chosen for this strange alliance, stepped onto Zithra for the first time. He was ordinary by alien standards, short, lean, unarmored, with simple Earth clothing. His eyes scanned the palace with curiosity, not fear. He had studied alien languages, culture, and history, but nothing could fully prepare him for the sheer scale of Zithra's civilization. Inside the throne room, Leora's heart pounded. She had never met a human before, and now one was to be her husband. She had been told he was weak, slow, and untrained in combat. That made her feel superior, yet nervous. She had spent her life being mocked by the court. Could she truly face this alien delegation without embarrassment? The doors opened, and Ethan walked in, his calm presence immediately noticeable. The court gasped. He carried no weapons, no shining armor, nothing to prove his worth. He simply stood tall and looked around. Eyes bright and intelligent, Queen Valera spoke first. Her voice firm. Captain Ethan Ward, welcome to Zithra. You have been brought here as the human chosen to marry my daughter, Princess Leora. Ethan bowed slightly. Your Majesty, I am honored to be here. I will do my best to serve the needs of Zithra and its people. The nobles chuckled quietly. One whispered, does he even know how to hold a sword? Ethan ignored them, his focus on the queen and the princess. May I meet Princess Leora? He asked politely. Leora stepped forward, trying to hide her nerves. Ethan's gaze was steady but kind. He didn't look at her as if she were useless. Instead, he treated her as an equal. Hello, Leora said softly. Ethan nodded. Hello, Princess. I hope we can learn from each other, the court murmured. No human had ever spoken so boldly, yet politely. Some nobles looked annoyed. Others were curious. Queen Valera studied Ethan closely. She could see the intelligence in his eyes, but she also knew he lacked the physical strength her people valued. Still, she said nothing. Sometimes, strength was not measured in muscle alone. Over the next days, Ethan observed the palace, asking questions and exploring its vast halls. He noted the alien machinery, the glowing energy conduits, and the intricate communication devices. Where others saw complexity, he saw patterns and solutions. Within ours, he had fixed small malfunctions that had troubled Zithran engineers for weeks. Leora watched him with growing surprise. She had expected a clumsy human, one who would stumble over simple tasks. But Ethan's mind worked differently. He did not rely on brute force. He thought logically, carefully, and creatively. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, Leora walked beside Ethan through the palace gardens. She asked cautiously, "Why do you help so easily?" "The court does not respect humans." Ethan smiled gently. "Respect is earned through actions, not words. I want to show that humans can solve problems differently, not by fighting, but by thinking." Leora nodded, feeling a strange warmth. She had never met anyone like him before. For the first time, she wondered if she was truly useless or if she simply never had someone to guide her. Their quiet moment was interrupted by an urgent alarm. A small patrol drone, meant to test the palace's defenses, had malfunctioned and threatened the outer gardens. Guards rushed to intercept it, but the drone's energy shields were too strong for them. Ethan stepped forward calmly. He examined the drone's control panel and realized its circuits were overloaded. With careful hands, he bypassed the faulty circuits, deactivating the drone without damage. The court gasped. No Zithran soldier had managed such a feat. Even the Queen's advisors looked stunned. Queen Valera's many eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in surprise. "He handled it with skill," she muttered. "Perhaps there is more to this human than I expected." Leora felt a spark of admiration. She realized that strength came in many forms. Intelligence, courage, and calmness under pressure could be just as powerful as muscles or energy shields. The days passed, and Ethan continued to prove his worth quietly. He learned Zithran language quickly, adapted to alien customs, and solved problems that no one else could. Leora began to feel a connection to him, not just as a future husband, but as a teacher and friend. Still, the court remained skeptical. "He is clever, yes," one noble said, "but he will never match a true Zithran warrior." "He is weak." Ethan overheard the comment but said nothing. He understood that prejudices could not be changed overnight. Actions, not words, would reveal the truth. One afternoon, Leora finally spoke. "Captain Ethan, do you think humans can really survive here? Among aliens so powerful?" Ethan smiled. "Humans survive because we adapt. We learn, we plan, and we never give up. Strength is more than muscle or energy. It is mind, courage, and heart." Leora felt hope for the first time. Perhaps she was not useless. Perhaps she could be strong in ways the court did not yet understand. And perhaps, together with Ethan, she could finally prove it. The twin suns set, painting the palace in shades of red and gold. Queen Valera watched her daughter and the human from the throne room balcony. She saw the quiet determination in both of them and felt a strange sense of curiosity. This human might be her daughter's greatest challenge or her greatest gift, and so, the first day of their unusual partnership came to an end. The court still doubted, the nobles still whispered, and the princess still felt unsure of herself. But the seeds had been planted. A human and a useless alien princess had met, and time, as always, would reveal the truth. The morning sun rose over Zithra, casting soft golden light across the palace courtyard. Princess Leora walked briskly among the training grounds, her mind restless. Today, she would meet Captain Ethan Ward again. Though their first meeting had been polite, she felt a strange curiosity about him. There was something in the human she could not understand, a quiet strength. That was different from what Zithrans valued. Ethan was already in the courtyard when she arrived. He studied the alien devices scattered across the training field. These were combat simulators, machines meant to train warriors in skill, speed, and precision. Zithrans used them to measure strength and agility. To any other human, they would have been incomprehensible. But Ethan approached them with calm attention, examining the patterns of energy pulses and mechanical movements. Leora hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Captain Ethan, do you know what you are doing?" Ethan glanced at her and smiled. "Not fully, but I can figure it out. Humans are good at learning quickly. It is how we survive." The princess raised an eyebrow. "Survive? You are on an alien planet. You will need more than brains to survive here." Ethan's expression remained calm. Brains, observation, and planning often matter more than strength. Sometimes, the cleverest person wins, even against the strongest enemy. Leora frowned. "We shall see." The day passed with Ethan quietly exploring the palace's lesser-known systems. He repaired a broken communication device, restored a malfunctioning energy shield on one of the outer walls, and even helped a nervous guard locate a lost royal artifact. All the while, Leora watched him, amazed at how naturally he solved problems that Zithrans struggle with 4 hours by midday. A minor crisis arose. One of the palace drones, designed to protect the garden, malfunctioned and began attacking indiscriminately. Guards ran after it, shouting orders, but their energy weapons had little effect. The drone shields were too strong, and its programming made it unpredictable. Panic began to rise. Ethan stepped forward without hesitation. "Move back. Let me try something." Leora watched as he approached the drone. Unlike the guards, Ethan did not rely on weapons. Instead, he examined its energy core and control circuits. With careful hands, he adjusted the flow of power, bypassing the malfunctioning circuits. The drone paused, its energy shields flickering, and then it powered down completely. The court, watching from the palace balcony, fell silent. No Zithran warrior had ever handled a drone in this way. Murmurs spread quickly among the nobles. Queen Valera's many eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She could see the intelligence and courage in the human. Perhaps the strange creature was more than he appeared. Leora felt her heart race. She realized that strength was not only physical. There were other ways to be powerful, ways she had never been taught. And somehow, this human made her feel capable, as if she could also learn to be more than what the court had always said. After the incident, Ethan turned to Leora. "Do you see? Sometimes, rushing in with force is not the solution. Calm thinking and observation can solve many problems." Leora nodded slowly. "I might think I understand, but the court will never accept it. They believe strength is everything." Ethan smiled. "Then we must show them another kind of strength. Patience, cleverness, and courage are just as important. You will see." That evening, the queen called a private meeting with Leora. The princess hesitated but entered the royal chambers. Queen Valera was seated on her throne, her gaze fixed on Leora. "Your human companion is unusual," the queen said slowly. "I did not expect him to handle a drone so effectively. Perhaps humans are not as weak as we thought." Leora's eyes widened. You are not angry at him?" Queen Valera shook her head. "Anger would be foolish. Observation and understanding are better. Watch him closely, daughter. Humans survive in ways we cannot imagine. Perhaps he has lessons for you, as well." Leora felt a strange sense of pride. The queen had acknowledged Ethan's skill. Maybe this human could truly help her grow. Over the next week, Ethan and Leora spent more time together. He showed her how to analyze problems logically, how to find patterns in chaotic systems, and how to use her mind rather than brute force to solve challenges. Leora discovered that she was not truly useless, she simply had never learned how to apply her own strengths. One afternoon, while walking through the palace gardens, they noticed a small alien boy trapped under a fallen energy barrier. The child cried for help, but no guard was nearby. Without hesitation, Ethan ran forward. Using a simple mechanical lever system, he lifted the barrier just enough for the boy to escape. Leora followed, assisting him with careful adjustments to the machinery. The boy ran to his parents, safe and unharmed. Word of Ethan and Leora's actions spread quickly through the palace. Even some of the skeptical nobles began to whisper in admiration. That night, as Leora prepared for rest, she reflected on the day's events. She realized that humans were clever, adaptable, and courageous, not in the way Zithrans measured courage, but in their persistence and thoughtfulness. She also realized that she had learned something important from Ethan. Her own potential was greater than she had ever imagined. The following morning, a group of alien diplomats arrived, representing distant worlds that had long watched Zithra. They came to witness the union between Leora and Ethan. The court buzzed with excitement and tension. Many nobles whispered their doubts about a human being worthy of a princess. During the audience, one diplomat challenged Ethan. "Your species is primitive. How can you hope to stand beside a Zithran princess? You lack strength, skill, and experience." Ethan listened calmly, his expression steady. "Strength is not measured only by power or skill. Humans survive because we think, adapt, and act with courage. I may not match Zithrans in combat, but I can protect, solve problems, and lead wisely." The diplomats scoffed, expecting failure. But before they could continue, an emergency alarm sounded. One of the palace's outer energy shields had begun malfunctioning, risking the safety of the palace itself. Without hesitation, Ethan assessed the problem. He worked quickly, rerouting energy, stabilizing the shield, and preventing a potential disaster. The diplomats watched in disbelief. Leora stood beside him, assisting when needed. She felt a surge of pride not only in Ethan, but in herself. She had contributed, using logic and observation, to protect the palace. The court fell silent, realizing that the useless princess and the human had acted with intelligence and courage. Queen Valera watched from her throne, her expression unreadable. Slowly, a faint smile appeared. Perhaps this human could indeed teach her daughter something the palace had never known. Perhaps strength was not only physical. As the twin suns set once more, painting the palace in soft reds and golds, Leora walked with Ethan through the quiet gardens. "You are different from everyone I have ever met," she said softly. Ethan smiled. "And you, princess, are stronger than you realize. The court may see you as useless, but I see potential. Together, we can show them another way to measure strength." Leora felt a warmth she had never known. She had found an ally, a guide, and perhaps more. The human who seemed so ordinary to the court was extraordinary to her, and together they would face the challenges ahead, learning, growing, and quietly proving that intelligence, courage, and heart could be just as powerful as muscle or magic. The palace lights glimmered in the distance, and for the first time, Leora felt that she had a future worth believing in. The palace of Zithra buzzed with activity. Nobles moved in elegant robes, discussing alliances, trade agreements, and politics. Yet for Princess Leora, the palace no longer felt like a place of judgment and whispers. Since meeting Captain Ethan Ward, she had begun to see herself differently. She was not weak or useless, she simply needed guidance and opportunity. Ethan, meanwhile, continued to explore the palace and the surrounding city. Every day, he found ways to solve problems that Zithrans had long considered unsolvable. One morning, he noticed that the palace irrigation system was failing, leaving parts of the royal gardens dry and withered. The court's engineers had tried to fix it for weeks without success. "Show me the system," Ethan said to Leora. She led him to the water conduits, explaining the basic layout. Ethan examined the pipes and energy flows carefully. "The valves are fine, but the control sequences are mismatched," he said after a few moments. "We can reroute some channels and adjust the timing. The water will flow again." Leora watched as he worked, impressed by his calm confidence. She decided to help, following his instructions to adjust energy panels and reset conduits. Within an hour, water flowed through the garden, sparkling in the sunlight. Flowers perked up, trees seemed to reach taller, and the air smelled sweet with life. The court noticed the change. Whispers spread quickly. The useless princess had helped save the gardens, and she had done so alongside a human. Later that day, Queen Valera summoned Leora to her private chambers. The princess approached cautiously, unsure what her mother might say. "Princess," the queen began, her voice measured, "I have observed your work with Captain Ethan. You're learning quickly. Tell me, do you feel capable?" Leora's eyes brightened. "Yes, mother, I am beginning to understand. I can solve problems, think ahead, and help others. I am not useless, and I want to keep learning." Queen Valera's many eyes softened slightly. "Good. Strength is not only in power or skill. Wisdom and adaptability are forms of strength, too. You have potential, Leora. Do not forget that." The princess nodded, feeling a new sense of pride. She had never thought of herself this way before. Ethan had opened her eyes. He had shown her that human ingenuity, careful thought, observation, and action could accomplish great things. And she had learned that she could apply the same principles herself. That evening, a minor threat emerged from outside the palace. A small group of rival nobles had sent spies to sabotage the royal kitchens. Hoping to embarrass the queen, The palace guards discovered the plan just in time. But the spies had already triggered a minor explosion in the storage area. Flames leapt from the containment units, and thick smoke filled the hallways. Chaos erupted as servants ran to safety, guards shouted orders, and the court panicked. Leora froze for a moment, unsure how to react. Then she saw Ethan step forward. Calm and composed, he began assessing the situation. "Follow me," he told her. "We need to redirect the emergency energy systems and contain the fire before it spreads." Leora followed, feeling a surge of determination. Together, they worked quickly, Leora following Ethan's guidance to reroute energy panels, activate emergency shields, and open safe passageways for the staff. The fire was contained within minutes, and no one was hurt. When the smoke cleared, the court stared in shock. Princess Leora had been in the center of the crisis, actively solving problems alongside a human. She had acted with intelligence, courage, and composure. Even the most skeptical nobles could not deny it. Queen Valera, standing on her balcony, regarded her daughter with pride. "Perhaps I underestimated her," she murmured. "And the human, he is more capable than I imagined." Leora felt a quiet confidence growing inside her. For the first time, she understood that being useful was not about following the court's expectations. It was about using her mind, her heart, and her courage to do what was right. And she was beginning to see that she could shine in ways the court had never considered. The next morning, Ethan introduced Leora to another challenge. He had noticed that one of the palace's security drones was misaligned, creating blind spots in the outer walls. The engineers had failed to fix it. "This is a puzzle," Ethan said, smiling. "It requires observation, patience, and a plan. Are you ready to try it?" Leora nodded. "Yes, show me how." He guided her step by step, teaching her how to read the drone's energy patterns, understand its control sequences, and predict its movement. Leora applied what she had learned, making small adjustments while Ethan supervised. Slowly, the drone system came into balance, patrolling efficiently without any blind spots. The palace staff and guards, who had gathered to watch, were astonished. Leora, the useless princess, had succeeded. She had learned to apply intelligence, patience, and careful action to solve a real problem. The court began to murmur in surprise. Even some nobles who had mocked her began to show respect. "She is improving," one whispered. "And the human, he is remarkable." Over the following weeks, Leora continued to grow. Ethan taught her strategy, problem-solving, and diplomacy. She began advising on minor decisions, giving input that surprised even the queen. Together, they worked to improve palace operations, fix broken systems, and solve challenges that had troubled Zithrans for years. One day, a minor diplomatic incident arose. A visiting delegation from a neighboring planet arrived with demands that could easily have escalated into conflict. The diplomats spoke loudly and arrogantly, expecting to intimidate the queen. Ethan stepped forward quietly, analyzing the situation. He whispered to Leora, "We can use logic and calm reasoning to guide them. Force is not needed here." Leora nodded. Together, they approached the diplomats, speaking clearly and confidently. They offered solutions, compromises, and clever adjustments that satisfied both the visiting delegation and the palace. The diplomats, impressed by their intelligence and composure, left with respect rather than anger. The court was stunned. Leora, the princess who had once been called useless, had prevented a potential diplomatic crisis. The human beside her had quietly guided the solution, showing that cleverness and thought could be stronger than brute power. That evening, Queen Valera invited Leora and Ethan to dine privately. The twin suns were low on the horizon, casting long golden shadows across the palace terrace. "You are learning quickly," the queen said. "I see that my daughter is capable, and that you, human, have wisdom beyond what we imagined. Together, you make a strong team." Leora blushed slightly, but felt a deep pride. "Thank you, mother. I am beginning to understand myself. I am not useless, and Captain Ethan has shown me how to grow." The queen nodded. "Remember this, princess. Strength is measured not only in power or skill, but but in courage, wisdom, and persistence. You have all of these. Never doubt yourself again. As the sun set, Leora looked at Ethan. I think, together, we can do more than anyone expects. Perhaps we can even change the way this court sees humans. Ethan smiled. We will show them, step by step. Patience and action will reveal the truth. And I believe you are ready. For the first time, Leora felt a sense of true purpose. She had discovered that she could learn, act, and grow. She had discovered her own strength. And with Ethan by her side, the useless princess was no longer powerless. Together, they were beginning to shine, and time would reveal the full extent of their abilities. The palace of Zithra had grown quieter in the morning hours, but tension lingered in the air. Rumors about Princess Leora and Captain Ethan Ward circulated throughout the court. Many nobles still doubted the human's worth, whispering that he was too weak, too ordinary, and too inexperienced to stand beside a princess. Queen Valera, however, remained calm. She had watched Ethan closely and seen his intelligence and courage. Still, she knew the court would not accept him without proof. Today, she had arranged a series of trials to test the human's ability not through combat, but through intellect, strategy, and diplomacy. Ethan entered the grand hall, accompanied by Leora. His eyes were steady, calm, and focused. The first trial was a puzzle of alien mechanics, a massive energy array, designed to test spatial reasoning and problem-solving. Many Zithran scholars had failed to align the array properly, causing it to short-circuit or emit dangerous energy pulses. Ethan approached the array slowly, examining the patterns and energy flows. Leora stood beside him, helping where she could. Step by step, Ethan analyzed the problem, adjusted the conduits, and carefully rerouted energy. The array hummed to life, perfectly aligned. The court gasped. They had expected failure, but the human had succeeded where the best Zithran minds had struggled. This is impossible, one noble muttered under his breath. A human solved it. Ethan did not respond. He simply turned to Leora, whispering, "See? Observation and patience make a difference. You can do this too." Leora nodded, her confidence growing. She began to understand that her strength lay not in muscle or energy manipulation, but in her ability to think, observe, and act with intelligence. The second trial involved diplomacy. A visiting ambassador from a nearby planet had been invited to speak, and the human was tasked with mediating a dispute between rival delegates. Zithrans had long relied on force or intimidation to handle disagreements, but Ethan approached the situation differently. He listened carefully, asked clear questions, and proposed solutions that satisfied both parties. He used logic, fairness, and reasoning rather than threats or displays of power. Slowly, the diplomat's anger eased, and the dispute was resolved peacefully. The court murmured in astonishment. Even the queen's advisors looked surprised. This human, with no traditional Zithran powers, had solved the problems that many believed only a strong alien could handle. The final trial was perhaps the most difficult. The palace archives held secrets of long-forgotten technologies. The human was asked to restore an ancient system that controlled palace energy grids, a task Zithrans had attempted for decades without success. Ethan examined the system carefully. Sparks flew, energy conduits hummed, and strange devices shifted under his hands. Leora watched intently, learning as he worked. Step by step, he deciphered the ancient schematics, identified faulty connections, and applied logic to restore the system. Energy flowed smoothly through the palace for the first time in decades. The court erupted in astonished applause. Queen Valera's many eyes narrowed in surprise. She had suspected the human was clever, but she had not anticipated such remarkable skill. Even the most skeptical nobles could not deny it. Leora felt a swell of pride. She had assisted Ethan, learned from him, and contributed to the success of the trials. She realized fully that she was not useless. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more capable under Ethan's guidance after the trials. Queen Valera addressed the court. Today, we have seen proof that strength is measured in many ways. Captain Ethan Ward has demonstrated intelligence, courage, and skill beyond what many expected. Princess Leora has shown growth, courage, and insight. Together, they are a formidable team. The court fell silent, then erupted into applause. Many nobles who had doubted the pairing approached them, offering cautious respect. Some were still skeptical, but it was clear that the human had earned recognition. In the days that followed, rival houses attempted subtle sabotage. A few nobles tried to spread rumors, claiming the human could not handle future challenges. They underestimated him. Ethan, always calm, observed their schemes, analyzed the patterns, and quietly turned their plans against them. Minor leaks were traced and repaired. Disputes were resolved before they escalated, and palace operations improved under his guidance. Leora worked closely with him, learning quickly. She advised on strategies, helped identify weaknesses in rival schemes, and developed her own confidence in judgment and action. Each success reinforced her belief in herself and in the human who had guided her. One evening, Queen Valera invited Leora and Ethan to her chambers. The twin sons of Zithra were low in the sky, casting long shadows across the palace halls. "You have exceeded my expectations," the queen said. "You have proven that humans are capable of much more than we imagined. And you, Leora, have grown stronger than I could have hoped. Together, you have shown the court that intelligence and courage matter as much as raw power." Leora smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. "Thank you, Mother. I am learning, and I feel stronger. Ethan has shown me that I am not useless. I can act, think, and solve problems." The queen nodded. "You have begun to understand your potential. And as for the human, he has earned respect not by force, but by wisdom. This is something our court must recognize. Strength is not always measured by battle or energy. Today, you have taught us that lesson." The following weeks brought even more opportunities for Ethan and Leora to demonstrate their abilities. They organized improvements to palace infrastructure, advised on trade negotiations, and resolved conflicts that had troubled Zithrans for years. Everywhere they went, whispers followed, first of disbelief, then of admiration. Even the skeptics could not ignore their success. Humans, once considered weak and insignificant, were now acknowledged as clever, adaptable, and reliable. And Leora, the princess once called useless, had transformed into a capable leader, ready to face challenges with courage and intelligence. During a council meeting, a rival noble could not resist testing Ethan. "How can a human, so small and inexperienced, hope to advise our princess or protect this palace?" Ethan smiled calmly. "Strength is not measured in size or experience alone. Humans survive because we observe, learn, and act with careful thought. I may not match Zithrans in combat, but I can solve problems, protect people, and make wise decisions. And together with Leora, we have already done more than many thought possible." The noble fell silent, unable to argue against the evidence of the past weeks. The court had seen the humans' abilities, the princess's growth, and their teamwork. Respect had been earned as the sun set over Zithra, painting the palace in warm gold and red. Leora walked beside Ethan through the gardens. She felt a confidence she had never known. "You have changed me," she said softly. "I used to believe I was useless. Now I know I can do more than I imagined." Ethan looked at her with a gentle smile. "You were never useless, Leora. You just needed guidance and opportunity. And now you are proving your true strength. Together, we can continue to face whatever challenges come our way." Leora nodded, her heart full of determination. The court might have doubted them at first, but now the truth was clear. Humans were clever, adaptable, and capable of extraordinary feats. And the princess, once called useless, had learned to shine beside him. Queen Valera, watching from her balcony, felt a quiet pride. Time had revealed the truth. The human's value was undeniable, and her daughter's potential was finally realized. What had seemed impossible only weeks ago was now a reality. The court had learned to respect the pairing, and Zithra had begun to see the wisdom in embracing new strengths. No matter the form they took, the palace lights glimmered in the evening, casting soft reflections across the golden halls. Leora and Ethan walked forward together, confident, capable, and ready for whatever the future might hold. For the first time, the court, the palace, and even the queen herself recognized the power of intelligence, courage, and heart. And the human who had once seemed ordinary was now a respected figure, whose presence had changed the course of Zitharan history. Years passed on Zithara, and the palace changed in ways no one could have predicted. Princess Leora was no longer the quiet, uncertain girl that many had once mocked. She had grown into a confident, intelligent, and capable leader. The court, once skeptical, now looked at her with respect at her side. Captain Ethan Ward had become a figure of admiration. Humans had always been considered weak by Zitharan standards, but Ethan had proven otherwise. His cleverness, calm thinking, and unwavering courage had earned him respect not only from the queen, but from the entire court. Where others relied on brute strength or magical talent, Ethan relied on observation, patience, and careful planning, and his results spoke for themselves. The palace halls were alive with activity. Guards trained efficiently, engineers repaired systems quickly, and diplomats from across the galaxy sought audience with Leora and Ethan. Together, they had solved disputes, improved palace systems, and strengthened alliances. Zithara had grown stronger, not through force, but through intelligence, cooperation, and wise leadership. One morning, Queen Valeera called her daughter to the balcony. The twin suns rose slowly over the distant mountains, painting the sky with gold and amber. "You have grown beyond what I imagined," the queen said softly. "You have proven yourself a true leader, Leora, and the human. He has exceeded every expectation. I see now that what seemed unusual was actually wise." Leora smiled. "Thank you, Mother. I learned so much from him, and I have learned so much about myself. I am no longer the useless princess the court once believed me to be." Queen Valeera nodded. "The court has learned too. Humans may be small, and their strength may differ from ours, but they have something equally valuable: wisdom, courage, and perseverance. Your choice to trust him has changed Zithara forever." Ethan joined them quietly, placing a hand gently on Leora's shoulder. "Time has a way of revealing the truth," he said. "We may be different, but together we can accomplish things that no one could imagine." The court's recognition of Ethan's worth had grown slowly but steadily. Nobles who once mocked him now sought his counsel. They had observed him solve problems that Zitharans had considered impossible, repairing ancient technology, preventing disasters, mediating disputes, and improving palace defenses. His calm confidence had become legendary, and the idea that a human could be powerless had faded entirely. Leora and Ethan also had children, heirs who inherited both human adaptability and Zitharan intelligence. The children were curious, strong-minded, and resourceful, symbolizing the union of two very different worlds. They reminded the court that strength could come in many forms, and that wisdom and courage often mattered more than brute force. One day, a council of neighboring worlds arrived at the palace. They came to witness the leadership of Princess Leora and Captain Ethan Ward, now called Prince Consort by some. The diplomats were initially skeptical, expecting to see a fragile human and a weak princess. Instead, they saw a confident, capable pair guiding their people with intelligence and fairness. During the council meeting, a diplomat from a distant world asked, "How is it that a human, so small, has accomplished so much? And how has the princess, once considered incapable, become such a respected leader?" Leora smiled, glancing at Ethan. "Strength is measured in many ways. It is not only in muscle or magical talent. Wisdom, courage, patience, and the ability to learn are just as important. Together, we have discovered how to use these strengths to protect our people and guide our world." The diplomats were silent for a moment, then nodded in admiration. They had traveled far, expecting to witness weakness, but instead, they had seen extraordinary capability. Queen Valeera watched from her throne, her expression one of quiet pride. Time had indeed revealed the truth. The human's value was undeniable, and her daughter's potential had been fully realized. What had seemed a foolish match had become a powerful alliance and a legacy of leadership. Even the rival nobles who had once tried to undermine Leora and Ethan had changed their opinions. They had observed countless successes, acts of cleverness, and calm courage in the face of challenges. The pair had not only survived but thrived, proving that intelligence and heart could match, or even surpass, brute force. One afternoon, Leora and Ethan walked through the palace gardens, where the flowers bloomed brighter than ever and the water flowed clearly in the restored streams. Children played nearby, a mix of human and Zithran heritage, laughing and learning together. "I remember when I first thought I was useless," Leora said softly. "I didn't understand my own potential. I didn't know that strength could take so many forms." Ethan smiled. "You were never useless, Leora. You simply needed guidance and opportunity. Now you shine, and your strength is clear to everyone." Leora looked at him with gratitude. "And you? You have shown the court what humans can do. You have proven that courage and intelligence can change the world, even when others doubt you." Ethan shook his head. "We did it together. Your growth, your courage, your intelligence, these made it possible. Humans alone could not have achieved this. It was the partnership that mattered." Queen Valera appeared behind them, observing the scene quietly. "You have both taught lessons that will last for generations," she said. "The court has learned to respect humans, and your union has strengthened Zithra in ways I never imagined. Time has revealed the truth, as it always does. What seemed uncertain has become remarkable." That evening, the palace gathered for a celebration. Diplomats, nobles, and citizens filled the grand hall. The queen stood before the assembly, her voice echoing clearly, "Today, we honor not only Princess Leora and Captain Ethan Ward, but the truth that time reveals. What seemed unusual, improbable, or weak can become extraordinary with courage, intelligence, and heart. This union has strengthened our world and shown us the value of patience, learning, and trust. Let it be remembered for all time." Applause filled the hall, echoing off the golden walls. The court, once doubtful, now celebrated the human and the princess. Respect, admiration, and even awe shone in their eyes as the crowd dispersed. Leora and Ethan stood together quietly. The twin suns of Zithra had set, leaving a sky full of stars. They looked at each other, understanding that their journey had not been easy. But every step had been worth it. Time revealed the truth, Leora said softly. "We have proven them wrong, and yet, I feel this is only the beginning." Ethan nodded. "Yes, the world will continue to challenge us, but we have learned to face it together. Strength comes in many forms, and we have discovered how to use ours wisely." They walked hand in hand through the palace gardens, watching their children play. Leora felt a quiet joy and pride. She had discovered her potential, grown into a capable leader, and helped the court see the value of intelligence, courage, and heart. And Ethan, once underestimated, had earned respect and admiration not through force, but through wisdom and patience. Queen Valera, observing from her balcony one last time, felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The human had changed the court's perception, the princess had discovered her strength, and the kingdom had grown stronger and wiser. What had seemed like a foolish marriage had become a powerful legacy that would be remembered for generations. As the stars of Zithra twinkled above, the palace was calm, proud, and alive with hope. Time had indeed revealed the truth. The human had proven himself. The princess had grown beyond expectations, and together, they had created a new path for their world, one of intelligence, courage, and enduring respect. And so, what had begun as a marriage of doubts ended as a tale of triumph, a story whispered across galaxies, a reminder that strength is not always obvious and that patience, courage, and wisdom often reveal the most extraordinary truths.